Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today is week 11 of building Hogwarts in LEGO, and of course we're kicking things off with a little bit of gameplay here of Hogwarts Legacy. I've just gotten on a broomstick and I've positioned myself on the outside of the castle grounds. What we're looking at here is going to be the main entrance to the castle grounds, and you can see how I was talking about in last week's video about how this building here, this one right here that you can see with the archway in the middle, is somewhat mirroring the aesthetic of the central bit of the bell towers that you can see in the background there. So we've got a lot of those same angular qualities with the two spires on either side and the pitched roof. So that's quite cool, and we're going to try to mirror that aesthetic, of course, in LEGO. The wall then is roughly about 1 story tall. I would say I'm going to make that around 6 bricks tall, so just slightly taller than a minifigure, but nothing excessive, because of course I want to build everything in proportion to my current LEGO castle, Hogwarts castle, of course. We go down here and you can see how the wall is fairly flat over there, with just some, maybe a few windows and some arches. And then over here we see it get a little bit more decrepit. It's breaking down a bit. We have some turrets. Right down here, it's pretty much just destroyed. And it does continue all the way over there until it hits that sort of mountain. But for the case of the MOC, I think we're going to stop it roughly at about what would be this turret right here, just in order to have a little bit more space to work with for the Forbidden Forest. And then here's the bridge that I'm wanting to try to recreate. I apologize for all the jerky movements. I will stop here. This is the, oh gosh. This is the bridge that I'm trying to recreate. It's not going to be this far away because I don't have that much space, but I'm going to try to position it almost exactly in front of this entrance over here. And I'll just take you a very quick tour into the castle grounds. This is what we're trying to recreate here. We've got the base terrain done from last week's video, and then we have this portion of the wall that we need to complete to seal off the inner courtyard from this castle grounds. So of course we've got a lot of work to do this week, guys. We've got to get started on this outer wall, which is going to be a ton of fun to experiment with. And then we have got to do all the foliage and get started on the Forbidden Forest. So without further ado, let's jump right back into the building and see what we come up with. Right, so what I've laid out so far is the basic layout of how this front entrance and the little bit of the walls on either side might look like, and the general scale that I'm going with. Now, apart from these awesome 20th anniversary LEGO Harry Potter figures that are framing this entrance quite nicely, and what we've got going on here is that these are the 4 main columns that will sort of mirror this building here. And then we have the building insetting a little bit, and we have 2 more columns on either side, and these will be the smaller spires. And then we just have some regular flat wall on either side. What I'm thinking of doing is in between these spaces right here and here on both sides is to just incorporate some little windows in order to break up the redundancy of just a lot of tan bricks here. I'm experimenting right here on the corner with a round tower to sort of replicate the turrets that we were just looking at. And then from this point here, I will angle it that way, and then we'll cut straight across the entire length of the front of the MOC. This is 6 studs wide, and it's not actually big enough to fit a carriage through it, unfortunately. But due to the scale of the MOC, we have to kind of cut some corners somewhere. The one gripe that I have with this so far, and I can't really do anything, is you can see at this point, and I've not really built very far away from where this entrance is that the wall is basically right on top of this lake, which is supposed to be in the middle of the Forbidden Forest. So accuracy is a little bit lacking at the moment. Hopefully, I'm going to build this up, and if it still looks like enough of a problem, we will potentially try to relocate this more towards the corner. There's a potential here of moving, oh, I just put my finger in front of the camera, sorry about that, guys. Potentially, if I move the lake right here in the corner, just right here, and then these 2 sides are exposed, somewhat like this is, then I might be able to frame it better to make it look like it's deeper in the forest. And then it won't be so close over here, because there's going to be a lot of action going on. We've got the bridge, so people are going to be generally entering the castle right here, and it doesn't really make sense that you kind of just turn your eye. And there's this scene deep in the middle of the Forbidden Forest, so I think I might actually extend this river, plop it right over here in the corner. And then by putting trees around it, we're adding a little bit of depth to the forest. But we're going to continue on with this basic shape. This is Hogwarts Legacy over here. Nighttime, so it looks pretty cool actually. But you can see this is the basic shape that we've outlined. We've done this portion right here between these two towers. And on this side, that's where we're going to end the wall. And on this side, we're just going to jut out that way. That way. So we'll get some more progress done on this and see how high we need to build it so that it looks all right in proportion with the rest of the castle. So the walls have been built up, pretty snazzy. That's what they're looking like. It's got some heft to it. You know, it doesn't look like a frail wall. It's quite strong and heavy, which is what I was going after. So that's good. As of right now, this tall section right here is 9 bricks tall, and this is at 6 bricks tall, which is what I said I wanted the heights of the walls to be at. They might be slightly taller than that now that I'm looking at this. I'm just going to take you right quickly back to Hogwarts Legacy. It is nighttime because, you know, it cycles through the day. This is the side of this entrance tower, so we'd be looking at either this side or this side right now. And you can see that there's actually a little bit of a doorway right there, which is quite cool to see. And if I just tilt myself downwards, you can see that there is some steps leading down as well. So technically you're supposed to be able to navigate your way along the entire wall. Now, this is the size of a door. It doesn't actually fit right here, but I do like the aesthetic of having a door on that wall, so it's just not plain. So I am going to just throw in some more windows on this side. And then we're going to just plate off the top of this and add some ramparts, and we'll continue seeing how this is going to look. The more I've been building this, I think it actually will be a good idea to move the lake to the corner over here. Also, because I think this patch over here will just mean that if I put a tree, it's going to get knocked over almost all the time. Because I can just imagine I'm walking by and I just knock this corner out. So it's almost a protection scheme if I put the lake right there and I put the trees more inside the MOC. The only problem with doing that is I've got 2 blue base plates right here. And you might wonder why I need those. Oh, because I put blue under there because I knew the stream was going to be there, but I didn't factor in that I might want to put water here. So I've actually got to rip out this entire base plate to put blue if I want to extend the stream at all. So that's always fun. So you can see when we're looking up close at this building that there's this very large Gothic pointed arch window. I was trying to recreate that, but I think I even stumbled across something a little cooler. Instead of trying to do some tracery in the windows, I instead went ahead and tried to reuse the 1x1 bricks from one of the 2010 Harry Potter sets and just have a really nice stained glass window on the front facade and the back facade of this entranceway. You can see the height now as we're building it up, and the peak is really only going to be a few studs higher than this, but I'm already loving how this is turning out. We're going to have to do a little bit more experimentation with some detailing. I think it's looking a little bit plain, but somewhat like the castle is, the detail is more on the roofs than actually is on the walls, because you can see this entire section of the bell tower is completely plain. I mean, there's no windows, there's no anything, it's just flat bricks. But you take a step back and you don't focus on that bit because you're looking at the overall grandeur of it. So same idea going on over here. I want it to be simple, but I want it to have a little bit of style. So we're going to work on that a little bit. Right, so for a temporary moment, I've got the full height of what I think this entrance is going to look like. So what it looks like when we come around from the side. Now, I've stolen these spires right here just very quickly from the back of the long gallery. Firstly, because, well, if you watched a few videos ago, you'll know if I lift this up, these towers get knocked off because of where they are on the split line right here. But in any case, I've just nicked them for the moment just so I can see what it would look like. And I'm not happy with it. One of the reasons why is, of course, the roof isn't done yet, but I think because of the size of this window, if it was a lot taller and it filled the space better, it would work. But because it doesn't, I think I need to lower this quite substantially by at least 2 rows of bricks, if not more. So we're going to quickly disassemble that and see if it looks better, because that just looks a little bit out of proportion at the moment, especially compared to the castle behind it. So some slight modifications done, but I think you'll agree that it was just enough to make this building a little bit more proportionate, and I think it just works. You can sort of tell when you're building something and it just looks out of whack. It's either too skinny or too fat or something. So by downscaling this slightly, it took a few iterations, and hopefully you guys enjoy the time lapse of that. And if you do, I will continue to make more of those. This is turning out to be a lot better than the previous rendition. And there's just a look down the side. And of course, I've gone ahead and nicked all of these sort of capitals from back here, because if you've watched a few videos ago, you'll know that I had a problem with opening this back section, because when I did this, you'll watch what happens to that side one. It just knocks off because these stick out over the edge. So in fact, it's all right. I've just used it for that, and I'll figure out something else for over there. So there's the entrance. Sorry for that. There's the entrance to the castle grounds. Now we're going to work on essentially continuing this pitch line right here. There's another one that's just right here, just to get down to that. And then those, I've got to build 4 more columns right there with some spires on top, and then we'll continue the wall in that direction. And then we'll work on this bit. So I want to finish the wall into that area, because that doesn't really need to change at all. And then I might actually have to rip up about half of this wall over here so that I can redetermine what I'm doing with this space. So just a very quick pause from the time lapse to talk to you a little bit about the wall that I'm currently building. Now, because this area right here is technically 1 brick higher than that bit over there, that is currently 5 bricks high. So I want it to line up exactly with this bit over here, which actually might end up being 7, but we'll see. The issue I have at the moment, let's call it that, is that it's a very plain, sleek wall. I mean, it is ridiculously reflective as well. I mean, look at that. Really nicely polished. But I want to add a little bit of detail if I can, because this bit over here is quite detailed. And then you get this, which is just one huge flat wall. And it's right at the front, so it might draw your attention a bit too much. I do have a lot of these 2x4 medium nougat pieces down there from my Takodana MOC. So I'm trying to use as many of those as possible, because I do not have many regular tan bricks to be building a wall this big. I'm trying to see if I might be able to intersperse bricks like that, the one with sort of like ridges on it, and see if that will introduce a little bit of a pattern or something. Right here we have some rock work going into the wall. So these are all just ideas that are flowing through my head right now, and I'm trying to experiment and see what will work best. I've left this open for the moment because I kind of want this to be an exact 45-degree angle, or at the very least an angle that works with the river. So I'm going to build this point first, and then I'm going to bridge the gap. So we're just slowly working our way this way, because I want to determine what the wall is going to look like before I start messing with the angle and everything and having to redo that in a bit. But it's looking pretty good. This is what it looks like from the inside. There's this one issue with the corner. I didn't want it to just be... So I've added this little curve, but what that means on the inside is it looks a bit like that. I don't really know what to do with that. I might just be able to cover it up with a tree and call it a day. So it's not a huge deal, but we're working there. In any case, we'll get back to the time lapse because I rambled for too long, and we'll see how this turns out. As with seemingly everything on this channel, it is a work in progress at the moment, but we've got the wall completed for at least the time being. This is the most important bit, I would say, at the moment. This is the angled wall piece right here. As you can see right now, it's floating, but it is very secure. It's held in place by 2 hinge bricks on either side. One concern potentially is there's a lot more medium nougat in this wall than there is anywhere else in the castle, and your eye is definitely drawn to the darker color, so I might have to go back and actually reduce the amount of medium nougat bricks that I'm using in this wall, simply because I don't think it fits with the rest of the MOC. But for the time being, I'm leaving it as such because it's really helping me get a better understanding of how this space is being used. Here's just that little bit where the rock goes into the wall, just to add a little bit of interest. I'll be able to do some more over there as well. I might do some over here. This bit over here, I need to raise the level of the terrain, which is what I said in last week's video, that I wanted to leave it blank so that when I put the castle wall in, I know what I have to work with. So now I can build it up to the wall, similarly to how I built the terrain up to Hagrid's hut over there. So that's just a nice empty slate to work with. When it comes to over here, let me take a step back. I'm really liking how this looks. I especially like that round tower on the corner. Now, see if I have the pieces to make another one on the other side. My only concern is that it's encroaching quite a bit on this area. So I might actually just even get rid of this bit right here and the building right there. So we have nearly an entire base plate to work with on this side, and we're definitely going to be reconfiguring the lake over here. Just back to the wall for a second. There's that strip of sort of detailing that matches the bell towers right there that I've incorporated into the wall. I've yet to make a decision, but I really want to put ramparts on top of the wall just to break up the fact that it's just a very long slab at the moment. But we'll just take those as they come. For the moment, we're going to shift our attention more towards that way. We're going to first work on the terrain here and then basically rip out the forest. Here's a look at the terrain now built up to the level of the wall. You can see I've had to intersperse a few plates there. And what I've done here is just incorporated a mix of wedges, plates, and tiles in order to reach up to the level of the wall. And then I've tried to cover the gaps and such and try to make it feel a little bit more organic by adding a little bit of foliage, experimenting with some ivy running along the side of the walls there. But it's looking pretty good. I will show you the quick view from the inside. Just some very basic terrain. I've been trying to incorporate a lot more tiles into the terrain. That's just something I've noticed is quite a popular idea, I guess you would call it, within the LEGO community, to just add a little bit of variety in it. It just looks a little bit better when you do that. So that's looking good. I'm happy with that. Happy with how it's looking on the X here especially, and then I will continue this sort of lush greenery all along the sides of the streams. And then of course I said in the last clip that we are moving the water, and of course that's because it's just a little bit too close to the main entrance, and I am in fact just going to cut that off right there. Right there, and remove this piece right here. And so I'm going to put a little time lapse on again because I'm having a lot of fun with them. We're going to rip up this whole area. We might have to replace the base plates, and you're going to basically see all of this almost disappear and then restart again. It's a bit of a lengthy process, but I would rather do that now before I get too far into this build, because I think this is going to work out in terms of the general layout of the castle grounds. So let's jump into that, guys. All right, so check it out. I've just put a pause to the time lapse right now. Well, technically it's still running, but I'm not working. That's how many wedges on that side I have, and that's how many on the other side, which is terrific because the ones that I need are those. And I've got 3,000 of those, so it's really hard for me to find a piece that goes that way. They're all going that way. So we're a little bit of a pickle. Yeah, well, the battery's just died on the camera, so that's the time lapse for now. That's where we stopped for the moment. I guess I'll just take this as a cue to talk about something, I guess. We've obviously positioned this into the corner now, and I've just extended the stream. As you can see, I've been able to shift over the sand blue plates, and thankfully I didn't have to rip up this corner base plate over here because I was able to utilize all the blue base plate underneath here, and it's actually the split line right there between the green and blue base plate is exactly the split between the sand blue and the base plate underneath those tiles, which is perfect. Now I'm just fiddling a lot here because I'm trying not to rip this out, so I'm trying to basically wedge a wedge underneath one of the existing plates. As far as what we're going to be doing here, I am going to try to replicate basically what I had before. However, we're going to change things a little bit. I'm going to try to incorporate as much as I can a little bit of reddish brown into the terrain, just because I feel like there's a lot of dark tan and green going on. So it would be good if I can create a distinction of the forest in the color of its ground. So we're going to sprinkle some reddish brown on top of whatever we work with. In any case, I will cut in this instance to once we have some progress done. Right, so at this point in the build, I've pretty much just decided to ignore Hogwarts Legacy when it comes to the castle grounds. I'm not dealing with the same space, the same scale, so I really just decided, you know what, I'm just going to get a little bit creative and throw my own pinch of salt at it. You can see that there's a huge rock structure right there. I say huge, small rock structure right there. It's a little bit of post-rationalizing, but I figured one of the reasons why the castle wall might not further extend that way is because they just built it straight into an existing rock structure. So it kind of makes sense when you explain it that way. And it's a good way for me to create a visual divide between this area, which is very much architectural, and this, which is supposed to be organic, forest, and such. Of course, we finished the banks of the river, and what I've tried to do is widen it ever so slightly as we go across. Now, the water stream does get slightly bigger from where it was here, but what I'm really talking about is where these banks here are quite steep, and then they widen out as you get over here. And then I've thrown in some reddish brown plates and such, just to give the indication of a forest floor. Just a random other rock structure right there. And next up, we're going to focus on basically taking the same level of detail or idea as this bit over here and apply it to this bank of the river and stretch into the forest and see how that is starting to turn out. All right, so I'm just about to get started on adding all the foliage, and I thought I'd just take a second to actually show you what I'm working with here. So this is just my big drawer of any sort of small foliage piece. So these are mostly these sort of lily pieces and these bamboo pieces and all of the, oh gosh, the bamboo pieces and all the grass pieces. Got a good mix of everything in here to work with. I've got here just a bag of regular green and olive green pieces, which I'm hopefully just going to add to give the effect of moss or just general, you know, not regular green grass. And then of course I've got two big bags of tree leaves, which are going to be great for when we get onto the trees. Speaking of trees, I did have a comment last week. It was a very good comment actually about, my camera just turned off, about the trees closest to the lake could actually be blue, somewhat like the Forbidden Forest sets that LEGOS came out with. So if all of them were to be green and dark green, and then you give a little bit of a mystical vibe going on, kind of like that Patronus set over there. So if they get closer to the lake, they get more blue, they get more mystical. I actually really agree with that idea. Very smart cookie, that guy. He also had another idea, and so did someone else, about how I can use that area back there, but I'm going to be saving that for next week's episode. So if you were the one that commented, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, then you're just going to have to wait till next week, because it was an absolutely amazing idea. So thank you very much for that. And we are going to now get on to the foliage. We're going to get on to a time lapse here. So let's jump into that, guys. So this is already starting to look a lot better than just the plain grass that was here before. I've just done some very basic experimenting with the tree form. I basically have a bucket of reddish brown bricks here and arches and all that stuff, and I just threw together the most random assortment of pieces possible, and you know what? It looks like a tree, so I think we're keeping it. And of course I just threw on a bunch of leaves as well. When it comes to how I did the foliage and stuff, really it's not my best work, but it's just a mix of all the different pieces you have, and you throw a bunch of them on there and it kind of does the job. And I've also got these little trees, which I'm really proud of these. I came up with this design quite a few years ago. I mean, I'm sure someone else has also done it. This is using just a regular reddish brown flex tube, of which I have quite a few over here. Just like these, and I will admit that I have cut some of them, but we'll just gloss over that. So you can really just snip them with scissors to any appropriate size that you want, and then you just slide on however many leaves you want. You can make small ones like this, you can make really big ones, but they're really nice to just dart around a MOC when you don't want to make a huge brick-built tree. So it's kind of a filler space for terrain. And we've officially got a bridge now. This is it in front of the entrance to the castle grounds. It's a very simple build. I'll just take Ron off for a moment. It is simply just a mix of plates and bricks, and the same way that you would build a tower. The round bricks in between the regular bricks are what allows you to curve anything slightly. So this has just got ever so slight curve on it, and it's really held in place on both sides. We got cheese slopes, and just on the edges, we've got just rockwork or plants in order to sort of fix it in place so it doesn't move from side to side. It could slip out technically if I was messing about with it, but because of all the foliage that I have in here, it is pretty secure. And on this side, I've just tried to add some plant life onto the side of the bridge in order to cover up the fact that this is exposed plates, while that side has tiles. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's exactly what I wanted. Very simple build, but it just adds a lot to this entrance of the MOC over here. And now I've gone ahead and taken the same idea of the foliage and carried it all the way along this front half of the MOC. Primarily, I've been trying to focus on ways in which I can break up the redundancy of a really big wall, and I've kind of just done that very simply by interspersing some rock up the side of the wall, put some ivy, put a little bit of foliage up the front, and it's already making a really big difference to just this front aesthetic over here. I will come a little bit further because I've done some work over here. This is in front of the central tower here. We've just added some foliage and some ground terrain just to mix it up a little bit. And we've gone ahead and thrown 2 more of these little trees, and they really help to just fill the space. So I'll give you an example of what they look like if I were to take them out. And not that the MOC suddenly looks bad without them, but it does look a little plain. And so when you go ahead and you put the trees, they usually fill those sort of awkward spaces in the MOC, specifically like this one over here, which is kind of unusable. So by placing a tree right at the entrance, you're drawing attention away to it and just sort of accenting the building in front of it. I've also experimented very slightly here. I've not got many of those tiles left, and it would be extremely expensive to cover all of this water. but I do really like how those tiles look like, especially when you get down low and there's that shimmer, and you can imagine you can get the reflection of the castle above it. I mean, you can see here the effect that the tiles has on the water, and that looks great. So if I were to be able to cover this entire blue area in tiles, it would make a really big difference to Hogwarts. But that's more of a financial decision than creative, because if there weren't any problems, then I would just go straight for it. But this is the equivalent of around 4 entire base plates worth of tiles. So there's that, but I was having fun doing that. Well, in any case, there is the end of the video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. We got a lot of progress done today. We've completely transformed this area by building this wall and the castle entrance, or the entrance to the castle grounds. It's really helped to bring this area together, and I think definitely by shifting the lake over to the corner, we've been able to work a little bit better with the space that we have. The foliage is really making it pop. Of course, we've got lots more to tackle in the upcoming weeks. First and foremost, we've got that area on the inside of the castle wall where we have the greenhouses. That's yet to be touched in any of the weekly videos. And of course, we need to start working on the Forbidden Forest, not to mention the entirety of the rest of the MOC, all the interiors and all the alterations that I have planned in store for you. So many more videos to come. Don't worry about that. Just on that note, I do have to say that while I will be uploading videos every week and I will be staying consistent with that, I will be going back to school soon, so I'm going to have a little bit less time on my hands. So while I will try to pump out as much progress as possible each week, I just wanted to let you all know that I will have a little bit less time on my hands. If you are starting to notice things are slowing down a bit, but don't worry, I'm still pushing through with Hogwarts, and I will see you all in week 12. Bye guys.